Hello everyone, and welcome to World War II at 80. I'm Ron May, your host, author, historian, and speaker on World War II history and the stories of those who served. We continue with our 9th episode today, which focuses on the events and stories of September 1944. In the Pacific Theater, 28,000 men of the 1st Marine Division landed on the island of Peleliu in the Palau Islands on September 15th. Japanese defenders numbering 11,000 provided stiff resistance. Serving with the Marines at Peleliu was an Ohio native, John Jack Patton. He was an air liaison officer for the 4th Joint Assault Signals Company assigned to the 1st Marine Division. Jack called in airstrikes on the enemy. He later moved to Indianapolis, Indiana, and had a full career as an educator before dying at the age of 50 in August 1971. The Japanese enemy forced the campaign to stretch almost 10 weeks before the Marines, augmented by the 17,000 soldiers of the 81st Army Infantry Division, finally secured the island. Wrote one Marine of the experience there, "The time on Peleliu was really unbelievable. 115-degree heat, lack of drinking water. Some water came in fuel drums that had not been properly cleaned. Eating concentrated chocolate bars for meals for about 3 days, and brutal fighting." The victory came at the price of over 10,000 American casualties, just over 2,000 of which were killed. Meanwhile, 423 miles east of Peleliu, U.S. forces from the 323rd Regimental Combat Team of the 81st Infantry Division enjoyed a cakewalk victory in securing an unknown coral reef atoll at Ulithi, part of the Caroline Islands chain. The coral atoll of Ulithi was 20 miles long and 15 miles wide, and consisted of 40 small islets, of which only 4 were inhabited. The area was under Japanese control, but with just 17 soldiers stationed there, it was hardly valued. Admiral Chester Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, noticed it on the map and recognized immediately its true value. The sea area within the atoll offered a much-needed deep-sea anchorage for Allied ships. Following the Army taking over the island, Navy Seabees immediately got to work creating pontoon piers for docking ships and establishing a massive naval base from which ships could be refueled, repaired, and resupplied, and crews could be supported. Now, instead of having to return to the naval base at Pearl Harbor for repairs and supplies, Navy ships could be serviced right in the Pacific Theater. Ulithi quickly became a forward staging base for future invasions in the Pacific Islands as U.S. forces continued their island-hopping campaign toward Japan. During late 1944 and throughout 1945, the naval base at Ulithi had the capacity to support over 600 ships at a time, easily making it the largest of all naval bases in the world. Allied advancement in Europe was also looking bright as ground forces entered Belgium on September 2nd, and some units even reached the German border at the Siegfried Line, Germany's western defense wall, on September 13th. The momentum inspired British Field Marshal General Bernard Montgomery to propose a bold but risky operation to storm Germany more quickly. Codenamed Operation Market Garden, the plan called for dropping American and British airborne divisions in eastern Netherlands. It was the largest drop of paratroopers thus far attempted. Over 41,000 Allied troops were involved. The first part of the Operation Market Garden plan was for the paratroopers to secure key roads and bridges along the main road linking Eindhoven, Nijmegen, and Arnhem in southeastern Netherlands. The road would eventually be referred to as Hell's Highway. The ultimate objective of the operation was securing the bridge in Arnhem that would allow Allied forces to quickly cross the Rhine River, which was a major natural barrier, and into Germany. The operation kicked off on September 17th with the landing of American and British airborne divisions near the key cities of Eindhoven, Nijmegen, and Arnhem. Bloomington, Indiana native William Bruce Dalton was one of the glider pilots participating in the operation. He was assigned to the 43rd Troop Carrier Squadron, the 315th Troop Carrier Group. His glider carried a Jeep trailer and 8 medics. His squadron landed safely in a field under gunfire. Staff Sergeant Harry Berry, another Indiana native, also landed in Holland. Berry was in the 82nd Airborne Division, 80th Airborne Anti-Aircraft and Tank Battalion. In his September 18th diary entry, he reported landing at 3:30 for a combat mission in Groesbeek, Holland. His unit remained in the vicinity for the next 10 days. The American and British paratroopers executed their jobs superbly. But the British armor and motorized forces coming from the Belgium-Holland border were delayed from moving up Hell's Highway due to stiff German resistance. The delay proved costly, as the success of the operation depended on a tight timeline for the British 30th Corps to augment and relieve the paratroopers, who were equipped only for a few days of battle before the full German forces could respond. Not only did the operation to secure the bridge at Arnhem fail, denying an Allied crossing of the Rhine, a costly 6,000 British paratroopers were captured by German forces, and almost 8,000 British paratroopers became casualties. During the early part of Operation Market Garden, U.S. airborne forces successfully met their objectives of securing roads and bridges at Eindhoven and Nijmegen, allowing the British Armour Corps to advance toward Arnhem. Byron Sykes was another Hoosier involved in the operation. The Martinsville, Indiana native graduated from Martinsville High School in 1941 and enlisted in the Army, electing to become a paratrooper. Following his training, he was assigned to the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 101st Airborne Division. His unit left for England in September 1943. For the next 8 months, the paratroopers underwent rigorous training for upcoming airborne operations, which included hikes of 15 to 25 miles and close combat drills. Sykes was on special guard duty in England when Prime Minister Churchill and General Eisenhower reviewed the paratroopers prior to the Normandy invasion. According to the Daily Reporter article of April 6, 1944, Sykes shared that he was within a few feet of the dignitaries when they conducted their review, and he said both Churchill and Eisenhower were generous in their praise of the paratroopers. Sykes took part in D-Day and fought during the early stages of that campaign before returning to England. His unit was called on again to participate in Operation Market Garden in September. The 101st Airborne Division landed on September 17th in southeastern Netherlands near the city of Best. Sykes successfully landed on Dutch soil on September 17th. His unit made their way to Best Holland, where they met stiff German resistance. Byron Sykes was killed 2 days later, on September 19th. He was 25 years of age and married at the time of his death. He had been overseas for a year. Sykes was later buried at the Netherlands American Cemetery in Margraten, Netherlands, where his body remains today. Guthrie Hatfield was another paratrooper landing in Holland for Operation Market Garden. Born in Owensboro, Kentucky, Hatfield grew up in rural Kentucky. His family moved to northwestern Indiana during his teen years, and he graduated from Hammond High School in 1938. He enlisted in the Airborne Infantry and was assigned to the C Company of the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 101st Airborne Division. Speaking of the failure of Market Garden in an interview, he said with lingering resentment, "It was a waste of time." Operation Market Garden was the only defeat of Allied forces by Germany after the Normandy landing. The failed campaign was later captured in the movie A Bridge Too Far. The failure to capture the bridge at Arnhem resulted not only in the deaths of thousands, 4,000 dead or wounded Americans and 12,000 dead or wounded British and Polish soldiers, it delayed the victory over the German forces for another 8 months. The Allies went back to the drawing board on how to advance through Germany and cross the troublesome Rhine River. Learn more about World War II history during 1944 and the stories of those who served in my World War II trilogy, Our Service, Our Stories, Volumes 1, 2, and 3. The books are available for purchase on my website, ronaldpmay.com. To contact me for questions or to schedule me for a speaking engagement, email me at ron@ronaldpmay.com. Also, be sure to check out all my other videos on my YouTube channel at World War II History and Stories with Ron May. You will find a link to my videos on the YouTube tab from the homepage of my website. Please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Please share it with others who you think may be interested. See you next month for Episode 10, featuring the events and stories of October 1944 on World War II at 80.